Koa and the Five Pirates of Mara is a game I was immediately skeptical about, basically because it's a spin-off from Summer in Mara, a game that can be described as a fetch quest simulator. Really didn't like that one, as you will see in my review, which I will link down below. The world here just felt empty and it lacked personality. Overall, it just offered very little to do. However, the more I've seen of this spin-off, the more interested I have become. And this one, it's a 3D platformer that takes our lead character in a new direction, and I really think the idea behind it definitely works. If there's anything I would happily admit as well, it's that the world and the characters, they have huge potential. But the question is, do they deliver on this concept? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. My name's Alex, this is SwitchCorner, let's get into it. So the story here follows Koa, who opening the game gets summoned to the local village. Pirates have raided this town and they've built out an adventure for you to tackle to restore the peace. These pirates are friendly, everyone knows them, but it seems this is purely a response to boredom as something to do. Now along that journey, expect to meet the whole cast once again from Summer in Mara for anyone who may have suffered through that farming sim adventure game like me. Overall though, here I enjoyed the story. It's incredibly simplistic, but it's proved to me these characters have potential if leveraged in the right way. The gameplay here is centered around a 3D platformer where the objective is to visit various locations and collect up all of the pieces of a map to defeat the 5 pirates. The platforming mechanics generally are solid, and I must say I really enjoyed many moments as they do get quite creative with the different level design. Think a shifting perspective from third person to almost side scrolling or chase sequences. There's also a few highlight boss encounters. The controls as well, they generally feel good. It allows us to jump, roll, pick up objects, throw them, as well as sprints. Utilizing the sprint function is essential as the standard speed here is too slow, and while there aren't really enemies in this world outside of bosses, the game's really relying heavily on navigation-based platforming with numerous hazards in your way. One aspect I didn't like here is that the roll and the sprint action, they share the same input button, resulting in accidental rolls after landing from a jump, which occasionally it did lead to me rolling off an edge to my death. Once I got used to this weird kind of decision in design, I did start to enjoy myself, and overall it is a simplistic enough game. You know, it's an old school 3D platformer, rarely dials up the challenge too far, but I will put out there just quickly, if you have younger audience members, they may need, a little help towards the end game. There's a few sequences where you're almost racing against the clock. And the location and level design then is a winner. Think lava locations, underwater based excursions, ice, and yeah, look, they for sure looked at the formula for classic 3D platformers and replicated that, but in my opinion, that works. One thing I wasn't sure about initially was the camera. It is fixed and it moves automatically, but they've done a real good job for the most part of not allowing things, to get too crazy, and it rarely makes life too difficult. I only had one level that was auto-scrolling, it's a boss encounter, and that did admittedly prove a little problematic, but that really is about it. I also like the fact that the game gives you reasons to replay locations. You can visit these at any time in the town. There's kind of this location that breaks down all of your different stats, but think looking for hidden objects, collectible shells, even a rating based on speed. I actually went in with the aim of getting gold on each of these levels, meaning I had to get through them as quickly as possible. These timers as well, they can be tight. Now this is a good thing because if you focus on the main story, you can run through this in probably less than I'd say 3 hours, and that is including some unnecessary padding that I was hoping the game would avoid. And what I mean about this is the small open world of Mara, the one I'm definitely not a fan of, it once again returns and it is once again lackluster. So a major complaint I had with Summer in Mara was it's just constantly jumping in your ship and sailing between 2 minor locations. Here they've decided, screw it, that was a good design, let's repeat it, and I promise you it is not. This should have been a straightforward platformer, but they had to go and mess with the formula. So what happens here is each time you complete a batch of levels, you get rewarded a map piece. Once you get that map, you need to return to town and take it to a friend that resides at a lighthouse. Now she translates it with incredibly bland dialogue, and once again now you're walking back to your ship to set sail in that very same direction. Now repeat this about 10 times and you probably get the picture. It gets old real quick. And if you are unlucky, one of these characters with zero personality will want to have a conversation with you at the same time. Now I want to say here just very quickly again, the world has potential, but here they've basically done the same things they did with Summer, but made all of the locations a little bit smaller and changed that overall perspective. That makes things, exploration a little easier. I guess it is smaller, but it doesn't all of a sudden make the world fun. There's still no life here, the characters are static, and the sailing isn't particularly enjoyable either. The controls feel incredibly weird. For some reason, it kind of changes as you shift where your ship is positioned on screen. And then there's also these whirlpools everywhere with no reason outside of to simply annoy you. They just kind of, I guess, block your path. They do try to add value to this world by giving you smaller things to do, like yes, there's some bonus levels, there's some races you can take on which I really did like. We have a number of different collectibles such as pearls and the aforementioned shells which can be exchanged for items. These items could restore the world, or perhaps it will be cosmetics. You can even buy add-ons for your ship. The problem is though, I don't really care about this world, so I don't care about restoring it. For me, this team needs to accept the characters are decent enough, this is a perfect use of them, in fact, but either rework the world and add some life or move away from it entirely, because this portion of the game right now is simply bogged down at the core platforming. And yeah, it has very little reason for even being included outside of really just padding out the experience, which adds an extra dose of frustration. Overall for gameplay, it's a mixed bag. It's a short 3D platformer with some interesting locations, there's a nice variety of challenges baked into them then, and there's a decent enough control scheme, but again it is bogged down by a dull open world that will have you once again just going back and forth for no other reason it seems than to simply annoy you. Visually, I think this game looks and runs great on the Switch. I've always been a fan of the overall style, and they continued what they started here in Summer in Mara. Now though, they've given the world a more chibi-like style, and yeah, our animations look great as we skip through this world. The locations are kind of standard for the genre, but they still do look good, and I do like the character designs during the dialogue encounters, even if that accompanying writing is pretty dull. It's just an incredibly vibrant world though overall, and that in my opinion is what you want for this genre. Even the map that you sail around looks good, even if I didn't want it to be there. Problems, well, as I mentioned, the world is just lifeless. Other characters stand still to the point of being creepy, and there's absolutely nothing happening in town, and that's the big problem with these parts. Nothing is happening and not a single individual is moving, so why do I want to be here? Audio finally, it's fine. Platforming is accompanied by the expected sound effects, there's the occasional environmental effect as well. I did find the characters pretty annoying, honestly. They have like a squeak and grunt sound, but thankfully you can turn that down in the options, so I turned them off immediately. It's pretty constant, honestly. And then the music, it's not what I would describe as memorable, but it's fun, it's upbeat, and it is in keeping with the overall style. So the final verdict on returning to this world was honestly not something I was looking forward to. However, the move to 3D platformer, in my opinion, that is the perfect fit for this world and character. That platforming as well, I'm happy to say it is a good time. Sure, it might be pretty paint by numbers for the genre, but that is fine, that is what I want. A classic throwback, and that is what they do deliver. They also give you different completion conditions, which I really do like. It extends that longevity. Sadly though, it's all punctuated by the back and forth repetition of the open world that had me annoyed in the original farming sim adventure game, and that has not changed here. There are some things to do here as well, it just really depends on how much you care about cosmetics or rebuilding a lifeless world. I would at least recommend the race levels at a minimum, but today I'm gonna be generous. I was thinking an average 5 out of 10 honestly, but you know what, when I was in the platforming moments I really was having fun, so it's a slightly above average 6 out of 10 from me. But let's see a follow-up now where you either cut out the fluff and treat it like a real location we should care about, or completely remove it. I just want to see individuals that move around. Give me the illusion of a living, breathing location instead of this kind of creepy world almost populated by static mannequin figures. And that is the video down. Will you be checking out Koa and 5 Pirates of Mara? Let me know in the comments. Is this what you wanted to see next for the series as well? With that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews, deals, news and lists daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.